Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar Weekly Discussion topic video, doing a second one this week because there's no new episode of Naruto this week, so that's a video that won't be this week, so I have a spare one to do. So I thought, why not do another Avatar video when this topic came up from someone on Tumblr. The question is more about the Tree of Time in relation to, does it create the possibility of time travel within the Avatar universe? But I will cover this more as a bigger topic and include just the Tree of Time overall. But as you'll see as the video progresses, you will see my thought pattern of just like my train of thought going from like, okay, Tree of Time, Harmonic Convergence giving bending to airbenders, different types of energy, how does that work with energy bending and line turtles, everything beginning to come together here, and I'm just like trying to figure out the entire Avatar world. And I thought, like, why not record this and actually get this thought process out and try and connect stuff together and present some interesting ideas. So let's get into it. We'll start off with the Tree of Time as at least somewhere to start in this crazy discussion. So the Tree of Time, for me, is the most important thing within the Avatar universe in terms of like a object, plant, living thing, whatever you want to call it. Weird because, like, yes, there is kind of plant life and nature within the spirit world, but fundamentally I think you'd consider trees to be like physical objects. So it's interesting in and of itself that is the thing. I'll get more into speculation on it in a minute, so let's just address what we know about it so far. The reason it's so important is because the main thing that it does, it existing, its like physical location, is that it binds the physical and spirit world together. Its roots do that. So it just being there and existing is what in any way allows you to go between the physical world and the spirit world. Just the fact that even exists. Now there are other things that affect this as well, in that harmonic convergence to some extent has an impact on how easy it is to transfer between them. The solstice is another, cosmic event basically that can ease passage between them, and just various other little more spiritual events like that allow an increase of spirituality to some extent. But fundamentally, the Tree of Time allows that to happen in the first place. Without the Tree of Time, the implication is that the spirit world would just be fundamentally separate than the physical world, and there'd be no way to transfer between them because nothing is connecting them, so they'd just be separate places, different types of places. So there's that. Now that obviously presents the idea of like, how old is the Tree of Time? If it's a tree, who planted it, as it grows, or does it just exist because it's a spirit tree? I'll get into that in a minute. So what does the Tree of Time do? As I said, its roots binds the physical and spirit world together, but it does some other things. It can be used as a spirit prison, which is what Wan did to Vatu. He defeated him and basically used the elements to kind of contain him, and then trapped him within the tree. So that presents some sort of an idea of like, someone who is very spiritual can activate the tree and, basically create a barrier strong enough to keep an all-powerful spirit like Vatu out of it for 10,000 years, with the only way to break out of it being the power of harmonic convergence. When the two spirit portals next to the Tree of Time are open and connected, that creates so much energy that Vatu could harness it and use that power to break out. So super powerful prison, only able to be broken out of effectively every 10,000 years. One time every 10,000 years. I will discuss harmonic convergence in a few minutes. It can do two other things as far as we know. One of which is that it's a place that allows you to directly connect to the cosmic energy of the universe. Another topic I will get to and explain in more detail. Energy and how it relates to chi and spirit energy and so on. But as far as we know, it's just this powerful energy source that usually you can't really use, but when in the Tree of Time and you are a spiritual person who has a good connection, you can use that to basically actually channel and use cosmic energy to make yourself more powerful. And so Korra does do that in book 2, and at this point when she does that, she's not even the Avatar, so her spirit side of herself basically is kind of not really there. She is just a human at that point in time who has bending and is spiritual. and she is able to basically harness the cosmic energy of the universe to enhance the power of her own spirit, astral project her own spirit out of her body, and because it's enhanced, it is a giant version of a spirit. So that shows you the power of cosmic energy, and that it turns, say, effectively, we see Jinora using astral projection a lot, that it's just basically Jinora kind of see-through, different colored, her spirit outside of her body. But if you enhance that with cosmic energy, you can make yourself bigger, more powerful, and it gives you other abilities and stuff like that. So that is very interesting to think about. And that gets into the whole spirit-human duality, which is another thing I will touch on going forward. You can see how complex the topic is and the amount of ideas it presents, but fundamentally that's one of the things it can do. The final thing it can do also relates to the name, in that it is a tree that remembers everything. It relates to time, and that as people experience time, they have memories, and the tree basically records and can play back anything anyone remembers. So even Korra, who had amnesia and forgot a certain part of her, at that point in time, recent past, going into the tree instantly kind of played that back to her, and she remembered it, and it was, back. It kind of cured her amnesia. So it's a very powerful kind of tool in that sense, in that it remembers everything from time. So that's probably the main reason it's called the Tree of Time, and that just the people who have come into contact with it have just been aware, like, wow, I suddenly remember everything. I can harness this stuff. It also shows Korra stuff happening elsewhere. So to some extent, if you are very spiritual, the Tree of Time can show you, or you can become aware of stuff happening elsewhere, because the tree has such a connection with the physical world and the spirit world that it can obviously to some extent show you anything happening anywhere in the world, which to some extent explains like how maybe Vatu was so up to date with what was happening, in that he was using the tree for 10,000 years to spy on everyone, or something like that, just be aware of what's happening. And 10,000 years is a long time, but to him not so much, so he was obviously plotting for all that time. But for Korra, she was shown what was happening in Republic City with Unavatu, and so she was aware of that there's something she needs to deal with, and even though she doesn't have Vatu, she has to deal with it. And that wasn't one of Korra's memories. She couldn't possibly have seen Vatu in Republic City on her own. She just basically saw what was happening effectively live. So it shows the callback ability of the Tree of Time is very impressive, and it is basically the most spiritual place in the entire Avatar universe, because it is a incredibly spiritual place even within the spirit world. It is just the place where, when the big cosmic event of the world, Harmonic Convergence, takes place, this is the place where all of that energy is channeled effectively. So it really highlights that in Book 4, when Korra goes into the Tree of Time to meditate and try and reconnect to Rava, the fact that she can't sense anything in the Tree of Time shows you the extent of the problems that Korra was dealing with, and that in such an incredibly spiritual place she couldn't find any spirituality. So really highlights the problems she was going through in Book 4. But that's what it can do, and it's really important. But let's move into the other thing that relates to the Tree of Time, and that is obviously Harmonic Convergence. Now, this is obviously the most eventful cosmic event in the Avatar world that we know about. There's obviously the solstices, there's eclipses and stuff like that turns off and on and connects various spiritual parts of the world. But Harmonic Convergence is effectively the alignment of all of the planets, like from the sun to Earth, and I suppose even beyond, in a line. And this basically allows, in the spirit world, which is connected to the physical world of Earth, to this insane amount of spirit energy to be channeled through the spirit portals that connects the two of them. So it's this situation where, like, you have the Tree of Time, which is the thing that overall allows these two otherwise kind of completely separate worlds, the spirit world and the physical world, to be in any way connected. And then there are the two spirit portals, the north and south, that actually allow you to transfer between the two of them. They're the gateways between the two of them. So what happens is that those two gateways actually connect to each other, and cosmic energy just kind of floods into them, so they are effectively the biggest sources of energy within the world. So powerful that you can combine a human and a spirit together as one, which is what happens with the Avatar and the Dark Avatar. It's the only thing that in any way allows you to do that, because usually when a human and a spirit combine, the spirit is so energetic and so powerful it can kill the human in just a few minutes, just by the sheer amount of energy and basically taking over that human's body. So it's very telling that the power of harmonic convergence allows you to basically make a human and spirit kind of at harmony with each other. So yeah, we know about events during 3 occurrences of harmonic convergence. The most recent one, obviously, is the one that Korra was a part of, and what happened there was obviously that the Dark Avatar was formed, Unavatu, so Rava and Unalaq. They managed to rip Rava out of Korra, so separate the good Avatar. But Unavatu was then destroyed by Korra on her own using spirit bending, which killed Unalaq and effectively resets Vatu. So that basically destroyed the Dark Avatar for good, in the same way that, like, you know, the Avatar being killed in the Avatar state ends the cycle. The way Korra killed the Dark Avatar ended the Dark Avatar cycle from ever being a thing. But what happens, obviously, is because of the whole situation with Rava and Vatu, neither of them can ever be fully destroyed. So Vatu was effectively destroyed, but effectively just destroyed to just a kind of pinpoint of dark energy which is stored within Rava that will eventually grow, and he will eventually be ready again to fight at the next harmonic convergence. It's not really implied how long this actually takes. I think the implication is that as best as Rava or Vatu can kill each other, it effectively takes 10,000 years for them to reform on their own. That reformation process can be accelerated, as Korra does with the help of Jinora, basically getting Rava back at the end out of Vatu. But again, we don't know the full details about that. It's not the whole it takes 10,000 years may not be a thing, but obviously the situation is that if one of them gets the advantage, they can keep that advantage by just having an influence over the rest of the world. What happened in Korra Book 2, obviously, was that Vatu was beginning to have an influence over a lot more things. So he had dark spirits around that was giving him more of an influence, and so the balance was less one-sided. Whereas, like, as it is currently, Rava is like 99%, Vatu's only 1%, so she is restricting how fast he can actually reform himself. So yeah, that's what happens at the first harmonic convergence. The second most recent one is obviously the one that Wan took part in, which resulted in the origin of the Avatar becoming a thing, which is obviously Rava and Wan bonding forever thanks to the energy of harmonic convergence, and using that power to seal Vatu within the Tree of Time. And then it is definitely implied, in terms of the oldest harmonic convergence we know about, that at some point Vatu Vatu at some point, either during the previous harmonic convergence or in or around that time, managed to basically create pathways from the spirit world to the physical world that weren't the northern and south spirit portals, which allowed spirits to actually flood into the human world in the first place, which causes the situation of Wan's time, where spirits basically are in control of the entirety of the human world, and humans have to live on the backs of lion turtles. So Vatu is what causes that whole rift between humans and spirits by sending dark spirits into the world at that point in time. Rava, it's definitely implied, wins that harmonic convergence, and she kind of has him tied up, and they're fighting after that point. So it's this kind of weird thing where, like, Vatu kind of plans ahead. He kind of does this thing, unleashing spirits into the world, but kind of is distracted and kind of gets grabbed by Rava, and that's the way they are for basically until Wan arrives. So that's the kind of history of that we know about. And, then what else? What exactly does harmonic convergence also do? So Rava and Vatu fight for the fate of the world. One wins, it's an era of light. The other wins, it's an era of darkness for 10,000 years. Cool. But the other thing is that the harmonic convergence does have an effect on the physical world. We see that most clearly in, obviously, the time of the most recent harmonic convergence, in that this kind of pink light basically engulfs the entire world, and the result of it is effectively that a lot of people who were not non-benders effectively became airbenders. Now, how on earth did this happen? As far as we're aware, the way that people can become benders is because of the line turtles. Humans now have that as a thing within them that they can pass on as they have children and stuff like that. The line turtles, we don't really know how they got bending, but they could give humans bending by virtue of their energy bending. So how does harmonic convergence give humans who are non-benders bending? And why specifically airbending? Well, I think the clue is in the name, harmonic convergence. It creates harmony. To some extent, the universe is aware of an imbalance in humanity with regards to bending, sees that there are a lot of earthbenders, a decent amount of waterbenders, a decent amount of firebenders, and basically just says, oh, there's only like 5 airbenders. Let's fix that and create harmony in the human world by fixing that. Now the thing is, if harmonic convergence at the very least goes back at least 30,000 years, if not way more than that, like hundreds of thousands of years probably, humans only got bending 10,000 years ago as far as we're aware. So why does harmonic convergence balance out the physical world by giving humans bending when they only got it 10,000 years ago? So humanity realistically must have been alive at a point during another one of the harmonic convergences. Why didn't they get bending then? Like I suppose the question is, like, during the harmonic convergence that Juan fights at, why doesn't that create more benders, or does it? Like, I suppose that's the question. Like, we don't fully know. Maybe that's the reason why firebending continues to be a thing, even though it's implied that Vatu effectively killed all of Juan's people, like Jaya and so on. Maybe harmonic convergence brought the firebenders back. Maybe that's just a bit of speculation that came up with right there. But it definitely just presents that idea of just like, it wasn't always the case that humans had harmonic convergence, so that isn't the default thing of harmonic convergence, because we know that the world has existed before humans were a thing. Vatu even says that he's been around so long that he has effectively seen humanity evolve from nothing into humans as they are now. So he's experienced harmonic convergences when humans weren't even a thing. So what effect did harmonic convergence have on the world? And this is where my speculation will come in. And this is just a theory here, but I think the line turtles have the elements because of harmonic convergence, potentially. That could be an idea. That the universe, knowing that the line turtles would become important in the future to protect humanity, who would become important in the future, gave the line turtles these elements, because their natural ability of energy bending would allow them to pass it on then to humans, and that would allow, the Avatar to come into being. Like it's creating this whole idea of like a person known as the universe, kind of like this planning things, but you have to create some sort of a story to this that sort of makes sense. To create a balance, the line turtles were seen as the next people who could bring balance to the world, and they needed their bending to do that. So that could be a cool thing to think about in terms of like one of the earlier harmonic convergences. Maybe that's how it happened. Now, I suppose at that point you have to get into the idea of like, okay, technically, how does an energy wave of harmonic convergence give people bending? Okay, it happens, but how exactly does it work? And this is where the whole idea of different types of energy comes into play. There are 3 types of energy that are mentioned or known about in the Avatar world. There is chi energy, which is probably the most well understood. There's spirit energy, and then there's cosmic energy. So chi energy very clearly is the energy that humans have, and potentially animals as well. but best known in humans, and it is what allows humans to bend. Because chi paths and stuff like that, as I've explained before in future videos. In past videos, I mean, sorry. Tree of Time messing me up there. So yeah, that's that. And then spirit energy is implied as like, this is the energy that spirits use. This is what powers spirit attacks, like, Vatu's spirit, laser blast thing. The spirit vine cannon is using spirit energy harnessed from, spirit wild plants. So it's implied to be a different form of energy. And then there's cosmic energy, which is the energy of the universe, the energy of just the planets existing, the most powerful energy in the world, of just pure harmony energy, the best type of energy. And to some extent, this has to cosmic energy relates to both chi and spirit energy, because Korra could harness cosmic energy to make her spirit more powerful, but equally, the other place we know about cosmic energy is from the Avatar state. The 7th chakra point relates to the cosmic energy of the universe, which is implied as like the power source for the Avatar state, because otherwise, where does the excess energy for the Avatar state really come from? So it's definitely implied to be somewhat related to cosmic energy. So that suggests that to some extent, cosmic energy also relates to chi energy to enhance bending during the Avatar state as well. So cosmic energy seems to be basically this kind of neutral type of energy that can enhance spirit energy or chi energy. The complex situation comes in when you try to explain what's the difference between chi energy and spirit energy, / is there a difference? So this is where I'll bring energy bending in. So energy bending, as far as we're aware, is the ability to manipulate chi or a person's chi paths, in that line turtles can give humans bending, can take away their bending, can give the power of an element to a spirit, and I think the implication is that a spirit doesn't have chi paths. So a spirit, as like basically a bundle of spirit energy, can hold the power of an element within it. Another point, Korra blocks and bends the Spirit Vine Cannon Blast at the end of Book 4 via energy bending, as far as we're aware. Now, this is a kind of tough point to make with regards to is it chi energy or spirit energy, because it's Korra that does it, and Korra is the Avatar, and the Avatar is a human-spirit hybrid. So she could be using just her bending energy, chi, but she could also be using, the spirit side of being the Avatar, or a combination of both. So that's kind of hard to really suggest in terms of like, she blocks spirit energy by bending it, which, can she bend that because she's a bender, or can she bend that because she's the Avatar, which means she's part spirit? It's kind of hard to really put into play. The other thing to bring up, spirit bending is obviously the waterbending technique, whereby a waterbender can manipulate the balance of light and dark within a spirit, and it relates to the balance of positive and negative energies within a spirit, which relates to lightning generation, because to create lightning, you separate the positive and negative energies to create an imbalance and create the lightning. So, there's a connection between all of these things. Now, lightning generation is a directly chi-focused ability. Spirit bending, as far as we're aware, is a technique that can be performed by any waterbender once they are spiritual enough. So it is a chi-focused ability using elements of spirituality to affect spirit energy. But, it's using water to manipulate that. So it's hard to really kind of put a idea on this, because it's this whole idea that spirits are made of spirit energy. Okay, that's fine. Which also, I think, suggests, because of the human-spirit duality, that a spirit can become a human, and a human can become a spirit, that humans' spirits, souls, whatever you want to call them, are made of spirit energy also. So you get this idea that, okay, so to be a bender, that requires a physical body, because it's the physical body that has the chi paths, but if the human doesn't have a physical body and decides to become a spirit, like Iroh, they then are just pure spirit energy, and can eventually, over time, if they spend enough time in the spirit world, begin to control that and get like powers equivalent to a spirit's and use that. So it's this interesting like idea of like, are spirit and chi energy the same thing? And then there's just a kind of duality between them in that like you can't directly bend the other one, but like by becoming more like the other side you can affect it. It's kind of weird in that like if you think about it, in that like a spirit taking over a human, what usually happens is that there's so much energy within the human, the spirit begins to damage them by just being in their body and like taking them over. The human begins to develop physical traits similar to that spirit. Because, to some extent that is, a human body that already has one spirit in it, but now it has a second spirit in it, so there's not enough energy to hold the power of two spirits in the same body, unless you use the power of harmonic convergence to, mold everything together. So that's like, okay, so that's extra spirit energy going into the body, and the physical body is more of a kind of chi energy type structure. So what's the situation here? It's hard to explain. There is a duality in the sense of like, clearly benders who are spiritual have some element of control over spirit energy, in that spirit bending is effectively bending a spirit. So it to me it just speaks to like the whole idea in the Avatar world that there is power, and then there is power plus spirit, which is even more powerful. That spirituality is such a key thing in the Avatar world that it does kind of fundamentally change something, in that it is not just the case that someone can bend their own chi, therefore they can bend someone else's spirit. That requires something different. It's very, 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 very difficult to explain. It's a very complex issue. And in the comments, I absolutely want you guys to talk about some of this stuff. What are your thoughts on the whole chi versus spirit energy versus cosmic energy situation? And like, if there's any connection between all of them, are they all the same thing, but there's just slightly different like ways to harness it, or are they all fundamentally different things? For me, I'm like, okay, cosmic energy is just this kind of general energy of the universe that spirits can harness in the right situations, humans can harness in the right situations, and it kind of works with either or. And then humans can bend spirit energy if they have energy bending, or are really strong benders who are also spiritual. And then, spirits with regards to chi energy is a kind of hard one to think about, in that it kind of requires like, okay, they use their spirit energy to take over a physical body and then utilize that. Kind of hard to think about with regards to that, but it's one of those situations where I don't think even Mike and Brian have probably thought this in depth about the stuff that they've created. In that, if you think hard enough about it, it just gets into the situation where like you just have no idea what's going on in the world at all. So I'm pretty much, I think, gonna end the video there before I just confuse everyone. But I think you can sort of see what I was going for in this video. Starting out with the Tree of Time and being like, okay, the Tree of Time is in the area where Harmonic Convergence takes place. Harmonic Convergence, one of the effects that it had was to give people bending. By what type of energy affecting a human body did Harmonic Convergence give someone bending? Like, the whole situation is that like effectively Harmonic Convergence sent out an energy bending wave that gave some people airbending but not others. And if energy bending is direct manipulation of chi, then this energy wave hit the chi paths of a non-bender and turned it into the chi paths and activated the air chakra of a non-bender, turning it into an airbender. Which obviously to some extent says airbending wave, and then that kind of hints that like, okay, but if that is a ability fundamentally of like Harmonic Convergence, was that then given to the Line Turtles by spirits in the past, or by Harmonic Convergence in the past, and all this sort of stuff. It just creates a lot of interesting situations. The other one obviously would be that like can a spirit use the tree of time? That is a confusing thing, I think, as well. In that, like, can the spirit obviously has their own memories of what happened as well. Can they obviously, to some extent, Vatu could. Can they just go in there? Can they harness cosmic energy and, like, become more powerful? Because Vatu didn't seem like he used it at all. Like, he was trapped basically within the most spiritual structure on the planet, and all he seemed to do was kind of spy on people using it, and didn't really do anything with it. So, interesting stuff, absolutely. But yeah, I'm just gonna end the video there on a very confusing note.